Hi, it's Alex Goodall here from Your Digital Ally, and this will be of interest to anyone using Kartra. And I've developed this as an aid to help me when I'm developing a more comprehensive tool for managing Kartra assets within Google Sheets. And one of the major components of Kartra, as you will know, is the automations, and I wanted to sort of consolidate the management of automations. So I needed to understand all the different conditions and actions in the automations and the different places that those automations appear within Kartra. So looking at the spreadsheet, what I've got here is in the first column a list of all the triggers, and then the other conditions, and then the actions that you can find in automations. And by trigger I mean the first condition, actually. So for example, if we look at the standalone automations, if I create an automation and then I will select, if I click select, there's a bunch of things you can select from, and they're trigger actions. At the time this thing happens, the automation will run. So at the time the lead subscribes to a list, or the time a lead visits a page. So these are trigger conditions. So I click one of those, say time when the lead fills a form, I select a form, and then the subsequent conditions they're not triggers, they're testing the condition of something that already exists. So now, rather than lead fills a form, it's lead has filled a form. So this is a condition that already exists rather than a triggering condition. The lead is subscribed to a sequence. So this condition would be triggered at the time someone fills in that form, provided they are subscribed to any sequence at that point. So that's just a quick explanation of the difference between the first conditions and the other conditions, the trigger conditions. So down here I've listed them all, and across the top I've got the different places where automations can exist. So in the first column I'm talking about standalone automations, and then in sequences I've got I've actually included more than just automations here, because if we look in a sequence, when you define a particular email for a sequence, you specify which recipients should receive that email. I mean, they've obviously got to have already been subscribed to a sequence, but you can select from those subscribers who actually received that email. So there's a way of selecting recipients for an email. And the conditions for selecting recipients for emails is very similar to the conditions that we have in Actions. So I've included all that here. Now the trigger for, under sequences I've got a column for the way you select a recipient for an email. Usually it's just this one, anyone reaching this step. But in addition to that, you can also specify all sorts of other conditions, as you see down here. So apart from that, there's an automation that you can associate with an email. So you can have just a normal automation associated with an email, and within a sequence you can have, as a step in the sequence, an automation as well. So there's the different ways automations and conditions are associated with sequences. Similarly with broadcasts, again, there's conditions for selecting the recipient of a broadcast. Sometimes you might use this one, everyone in the database. More often than not, you'll have some other conditions that you select. And then associated with the broadcast, you can also have an automation actually associated with the broadcast. So everyone that the broadcast is sent to, is then that automation is applied. But again, you would specify conditions with that as well. to select from those people who are sent the broadcast, or it just might be everybody who sent the broadcast. Then there's forms. So with a form, you can identify automations. The trigger condition there is lead fills in this form. That's sort of almost self-evident. So if you filled in this form, you're going to be subject to this condition, and then to the automation, and then you can apply additional conditions as to whether the automation is run. Similarly with memberships, normally when someone is granted or revoked access to a membership, the automation would be triggered, and then you can apply other conditions and take actions. And finally, this is a relatively new one, when someone registers on or completes registration or on a calendar, or cancels a subscription to a calendar, then again you can associate an automation. And the trigger condition will be registering for a calendar, complete subscription, or cancel the subscription. So that shows the whole scope of conditions, triggers, conditions, and actions for all forms of automation within Kartra. And where the condition exists, or the trigger exists, I've put a cross, probably should have put a Y, but put a cross to say it exists, and that's highlighted green. Where it's not applicable, I've got NA. So that's often true in triggers. So triggers are very usually specific to the instance. So sequence triggers are to do with anyone reaching this step. That trigger condition is obviously only true for a recipient of an email, or anyone. The lead opens this this email in this sequence. That's obviously only relevant to sequences. But and also some of the actions, some of the normal conditions are only relevant to particular usages. But the interesting parts are the things that are blank. So there, unless there might be some misunderstanding there, I think it's possible that a particular trigger or condition could be applied in a particular case, but for some reason it's not implemented in Kartra. So one example is, here's a good example. The condition has reached a particular step in a sequence. That's a condition that you can use. No, sorry, it's a trigger. No, condition, beg your pardon. It's a condition that you can use almost anywhere, but you can't actually use it as a recipient selector for broadcast. So that might just be something that hasn't been implemented, or there might be a reason for that which I don't understand. Anyway, I think you might find this useful if you're wanting an overview of what you can do where in terms of using automations. That's it. I hope that's helpful for you. If you'd like to stay in touch with my progress and development on my Kartra management tool, just shoot me an email here, and I'll make sure I keep you updated. Okay, hope you find this useful. Thanks for your attention. Bye bye for now.